You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WYPC.
WCYTV
Here on the Daily Signal.
Good evening and welcome to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first on 93 WYBC. A little bit of breaking news out of the Supreme Court of the United States. They have ruled an extension on the order blocking full SNAP payments. And the Associated Press says, with the shutdown potentially near an end, as though that's some type of a counterweight to SNAP payments going out. Okay, here's why the Trump administration cannot give out full SNAP payments right now. The order from the judges, from Judge McCucares up in Massachusetts or Rhode Island, and then Talwani, who's also been really annoying. Those two federal judges ruled that the emergency contingency super duper ultra emergency funds in the U.S. Department of Agriculture, that $6 billion fund had to be used to pay SNAP benefits during the government shutdown. There's only a problem. SNAP benefits cost like $10 billion a pop. Now, for those of you mathematical geniuses at home, $10 billion is more than $6 billion. And so if you spend all $6 billion into the $10 billion, you're still $4 billion in the hole. You don't need Dave Ramsey to tell you that one. So what does that mean for the rest of the country? Well, the Senate has gone through its series of procedural votes. And Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, is prepared to call members of the House back into session. We're going to talk about why ABC News reporters probably should pick up a civics book or a calendar later on in the show. But for that, we need to put that off to the side. Bigger news right up front is the Department of Justice officially beginning an investigation into University of California Berkeley. Why would the DOJ want to begin an investigation into Berkeley besides, the obvious that it's kind of a mess of a leftist school? Well, first and foremost, because at the Turning Point USA event earlier this week, there were a series of security failures, a series of violent riots that started to break out that altered the course of the event at UC Berkeley. In short, UC Berkeley as a university did not do its very basic necessity. It did not do the very basic thing required of it to keep students safe at a free speech event on campus. Now, of course, with any ridiculously awful series of actions from the left comes some of the shadow screening reporting from the legacy media. CBS in the Bay Area actually did the mostly peaceful meme. Just went ahead and brought it back. Here you go.
Event. Our Amanda Harry is live on the scene there where protesters also showed up. We've already actually seen at least one fight break out. Amanda.
Yeah, things have been lively here. While that Turning Point USA event is still happening inside, protesters have been out here for hours. You can see them still here behind me. They have been chanting, just a very, very lively scene out here. While things have been mostly peaceful,
there it is.
There have been some tense moments.
Tense moments. What would these tense moments be? Tense moments would be like a standoff. You're face to face. You yell something about me. I yell something about your mother. We go home. We yell. We post about it online. Okay. What are these tense moments?
Earlier this evening, there was a scuffle that broke out where two men started fighting.
There was like a scuffle, like might have been some harsh word. There are two men violently going at it. Does that seem like a tense moment to you? Actual breaking of laws. Well, they can't actually describe it as then protesters broke the law, because then they would no longer be protesters. They would be, survey says, rioters. Okay, now let's actually look at some of the real footage as to what's going on. Did you have something, producer Nick?
Yeah, which ties into how they're interestingly framing that. They failed to mention that fight started off based off a theft that occurred from one of the protesters.
Now, I know that this is difficult for those in California to understand, given that the state's laws on theft are a little silly. But yeah, theft is in fact a violation of the law and would turn a protest into a riot by standard legal precedent. But we begin with some of the greatest, the most lighthearted cheering of Antifa, the organization that doesn't exist, of course, by chanting, F your dead homie, in reference to Charlie Kirk, because, decent people and whatnot.
Dead homie, you're 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 dead homie.
Now you can see some people already starting to get a smidgen uncomfortable. Just a little bit uncomfortable, as what we're seeing is a group of people who are just not really interested in being filmed chanting this. There's very little like the actual ethical momentum to this particular thing. And then we get to some more of the law breaking. This is where the security issues come into play. So you can see the group of rioters who are standing outside of the university entrance, blocking the exits. Yeah, you can't do that. Blocking the exits, nope, not a thing, not something that is approved, one might say. No, you can't do that one. And by the way, the other side of breaking the law would be the shaking of the, actual barrier. So attempting to break down the barrier, also not allowed. There were also some flares that were fired off, a lot of smoke, a lot of chaos that really surrounded the entire event of the evening. There was just a lot of violence there. At one point, there was a fight that led into a particularly interesting arrest.
Break it up! Break it up! Police! Break it up! Police! Break it up! Break it up!
Okay, so ignore like the beta, no testosterone at all individual in the hoodie yelling at the guy getting hit. You're bleeding, beep.
Hey, white boy, you're bleeding, white boy. Hey, white boy, you're bleeding.
If you sound as though you have not yet gone all the way through puberty, you should not be yelling that someone else is bleeding unless you yourself are calling for help. Just general rule in practice.
What happened? What happened, white boy? Relax. Take a deep breath. Relax. Relax. What happened, white boy? Hey, white.
Now, I believe you had a kind of a forensic take from your end on this particular arrest and fight as well, right?
Two parts. This actually was the aftermath of the earlier fight that we saw that started with the theft. And then in watching the video, anybody who knows, this is going to sound pretty interesting, grappling, combat sports that involve grappling, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, you know that having somebody in what the police officer has the man in the red shirt by is a double chicken wing. He has both of his arms behind his back, and he is lacing his arms between the man's arms and his back to grab him. And the idea is to utilize the leverage of having both his limbs putting pressure on the joints to lift him up. Yet he continually fails to do so, instead wrenching his shoulders upwards rather than putting the weight of the man onto his shoulders. So essentially wrenching them out of their sockets, making the whole pin useless.
Interesting stuff. Excellent. Just a great time all around. There are a series of concerns that are, in fact, enough. As Assistant Attorney General in charge of civil rights for the DOJ, Harmeet Dhillon wrote, quote, "Mob assault and thuggish intimidation of attendees exercising their First Amendment rights are unacceptable. The Civil Rights Division under AG Pam Bondi is initiating a full investigation into the potential failures at UC Berkeley and any who enabled such violence." Yeah, there weren't enough police. They didn't set up barriers correctly. Again, when you allow those who are participating in mob violence, you don't get to actually go out as a protester and intimidate and threaten violence. That's not a thing. You don't get to go, hey, I have this pitchfork and torch here. It's looking pretty exciting. No, you don't get to do that. It's not a thing. You don't get to threaten violence. That would be threatening or intimidation to assault.
Or impede somebody from leaving a building.
Or, of course, impeding someone from leaving a building. Now, by the way, it should be noted, Berkeley has now released a statement. It says it will conduct an investigation. Oh, thank God. Berkeley's going to conduct an internal investigation. I bet I know how that investigation is going to go. 3-4 months from now, you'll see some scrawny little HR person waltz up in front of the microphone and go, "We have done a full investigation, and we have found no one did anything wrong. And also, you should give us money." And that will be the end of that particular investigation. They also condemned all violence, which, very brave, stunning.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
After the violent night, you condemn it.
You and I both know that if there was some kind of an instance in which one could say there was like a neo-Nazi or a white supremacist there yelling things, they would have condemned white supremacy. But when you have Marxists again, cheering on murder and saying everyone else should die, that kind of a thing. Oh, well, that's, just condemning all violence.
It's an idea. It's an ephemeral idea, Antifa.
Like a metaphor.
Neo-Nazis are real. They're everywhere.
Incredible. Radio crew, we got to send you over to the commercial. We'll see you in a second. We'll continue on the live stream in the meantime. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. By the way, to everyone out there on the live stream side of things, happy Veterans Day. We're going to be in a really good interview in just a bit with one of the more incredible stories I've heard, and probably the first cyclist in all of history that I don't hate, which is honestly an achievement in and of itself. Chuck Schumer, in the meantime, he's having a real rough one. And I don't just mean, Chuck Schumer's struggling, in his home life, although perhaps he might be. I mean, every single part of the Democrat Party has now turned on him. The moderate side, as small as it is, they don't like him because he kept up the government shutdown as long as he did. The progressives don't like them because, well, progressives don't like anyone in Democrat Party leadership. And the right doesn't like him because he's weaponized the judicial system and been a terrible senator. And then the independents don't like him because he can't grill. So Chuck Schumer's having a real rough one in the polls. Here's Harry Enton with the latest data on that.
What about Democrats nationwide feeling about Chuck Schumer? I think the word of the day is terrible, 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 terrible. To quote another Charles Barkley when it comes to Chuck Schumer. Look at this. Nice. Least popular Dem Senate leader ever. I looked at all of the polls going all the way back since 1985. The one who has the lowest rating among Democrats is, in fact, Chuck Schumer. Look at.
That's a shame. Mazie Hirono should have that in spades. Followed by Chris Murphy, followed by that one really ugly guy that tried to buy out the Texas football team, and that one like B-list movie. That should be number 3 worst. So Chuck Schumer pulling number 1 here is a real letdown. I want everyone to know that Mazie Hirono still should hold that title supreme.
He's underwater with Democrats. His own party, he's underwater. He's at -4 points. That makes him the least popular guy for a Dem Senate leader going all the way back since the mid-1980s at least.
Do you have a sense of why?
Why?
I love questions like that. And by the way, this isn't even her fault. Some people say, well, CNN, she's just asking dumb questions. No, you have to, as an interviewer, ask, well, do you know why? And the obvious answer is, he just doesn't look good in the sombrero meme like Hakeem Jeffries does. Hakeem Jeffries brings a certain je ne sais quoi, or as translated in Spanish, he's quite the hombre in his sombrero. Chuck Schumer just doesn't have that.
Why? It's because Democrats, they want a fighter. They want a fighter. That's why. Take a look here. Democrats, Dems in Congress do too little to oppose Trump. During the first term, it was just 46% in 2017. That's the percentage of Democrats who said that the Dems in Congress are doing too little to oppose Donald Trump. Look at where we are now. 69%.
Nice.
That is an increase of, get this, 23 points.
All right, this is where he completely misses the ball. He says Chuck Schumer is not popular because Democrats want a fighter. Wrong. The reason Chuck Schumer is unpopular is one half that reason. The other half of the reason Chuck Schumer is deeply unpopular is because he has no goodwill, no good faith interactions with those on the other side of the aisle. As much as I despise her, even Elizabeth Warren very rarely will come out to co-sponsor a bill with, for example, Senator Jim Banks of Indiana. Every once in a while, you will have these senators, even the more progressive ones, who will come out, Bernie Sanders say, look, I do not like credit card debt. I don't like it. I don't like the way credit cards feel in my hand because I've never worked a job and I'm very upset about it. And he'll sponsor some kind of a bill with a Republican to maybe cap interest rates or something, as they floated earlier. There is every once in a while a little bit of bipartisanship that goes on some bills here and there. It's spread out. Chuck Schumer doesn't do that. Chuck Schumer doesn't play those games. And so he's unpopular to another huge chunk of the country who is really tired of the prima donna theater funfair. This is why, by the way, perfect example why Americans don't like Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg is intelligent. Pete Buttigieg has a fairly accomplished legal history. As far as like opinions he's delivered, how articulate he is on things, it has screwed him over because none of it's real. It's all illusory. We're going to talk about that in a second. Don't go anywhere. More news. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast.
The Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
All right, guys, it's time for some 3D chess. Some 3D chess. Now, normally, the 3D chess, 4D chess, candy cane shoots and ladders moniker is usually played in reference to why Trump did something. The president did something because actually he's seeing 38 moves ahead. He's consulted the matrix. He's taken the red pill and he's manipulating the system 48 steps ahead. In reality, Trump's like, I'm going to punch you in the face before you punch anyone else. And that's, more often, by the way, not only what works, the strategy of the president. Don't look at me. That's art of the deal. He's very open about that. But the Democrats, they're engaging in a whole different kind of 3D chess now. Essentially, what we talked about during the live stream for the commercial break was that Chuck Schumer has grown increasingly unpopular, but there's an entire wing of the Democrat Party right now who is just desperate to claim all of their problems are actually the fault of Republicans. You hear this from the left all the time. Venezuela is not a failed socialist country. It's actually just because the United States blockaded the country. That's why North Korea is in such dire straits, even though they border China, their biggest supporter. It's because of all of the sanctions and the blockading. Like that's really why it's bad. It's not that the Democrats were racist members of the KKK up through the 60s. Magically, they swapped parties with the Republicans in like 1973. That kind of stuff. They're bringing it back. And they're bringing it back in two ways. Number one, you have Chuck, who is actually coming out from, a political grave to suggest that, actually Republicans want to starve children and beat them with sticks. He's still running on this. It ain't working.
In another act of brazen cruelty, the Trump administration is going to the Supreme Court again to prevent hungry kids from getting fed. And instead of just feeding these hungry children, hungry veterans, hungry senior citizens, they're going to court again to ask the courts to prevent them from being forced to do this. The cruelty of this administration is endless.
Ah, yes. You just believe Chuck's empathy oozing out of him there. It's so believable. Well, the rest of his caucuses, because now the Democrat Party is splintering as quick as possible here. Rosa DeLauro has a different kind of 4D chess to play. She, the purple hair, Muppet running for office variety of representative.
Outrageous that a group of Senate Democrats just joined with Republicans really to undermine our efforts on health care. That's what this fight has been about, extending the premium subsidies so that people's insurance costs are affordable. What's happened now is they will continue to be outrageous, doubling or tripling in cost.
For those of you, by the way, that don't speak Fixident, because hers is clearly failing, you can no, seriously, if you've ever heard a person of the dentured variety who is not applied enough Fixident to suction that to the top of their mouth, she's like trying to hold her teeth in place. Now, Nancy Pelosi usually just starts sucking it down, but no. Rosa DeLauro, instead, she starts talking about how actually Republicans are to blame for this disaster of healthcare, doubling, tripling, quadrupling, quintupling. She has the Dr. Seuss books on Hooper Humperdinck, where like as they go through the alphabet, like quintupleted, sextupleted, octemple-tapleted. Okay.
And that really doesn't help people with the biggest issue today that they're facing. That's the cost of living and affordability.
So she flips it from healthcare to the cost of living and affordability. Again, no actual solution. This just appears to be the word they're just going to say over and over and over and over again. But that brings us over to, of course, if you got big, huge hotshots in the Democrat Party, like Rosa DeLauro saying it, then James Walkinshaw. I've never really heard of this guy before. He looks like every other like young Democrat in Congress. Well, I mean, other than Tim Miller, because at least he wears a skirt. Here's James Walkinshaw with his brilliant 3D chess theory on why the shutdown ended in healthcare.
Yeah, I represent more than 55,000 federal workers in Northern Virginia, and they have been beaten up by the Trump administration for 10 months, and this shutdown made it all the worse. And I understand that frustration, absolutely. The federal workers that I have heard from want us to continue standing up to the Trump administration in any way that we can. Many of them who have been fired by the Trump administration.
I'm sorry, I can't listen to any more of that. So then there's the theory that he's doing all of this to hurt federal workers is that, oh, that's why Donald Trump's trying to abuse, like he's got the belt.
To beat them up.
Yeah, like he just kicks open the bedroom door and he's like, all right, it's federal
How
worker
many times are we going to teach you this lesson, old man?
Incredible. So that's the next theory. Ron Wyden, he posted this. He didn't get out there and say it. He suffers from the same denture problem that half of his colleagues do. He says, Republicans have destroyed health care in our country. Millions will go without care, and people will die. That's what Bernie Sanders said yesterday. Yet again, Republicans have shown their priorities begin and end with helping billionaires. Americans won't forget it the next time they go to the polls. First of all, yeah, Americans usually do forget things that are like a year later by the time an election rolls around. Do you know how many, by the way, do you notice how no Democrats since the vote have been saying big, beautiful bill? Not a single one has mentioned it. That half of them were saying only that all the way up. It wasn't even in the top 20 issues for voters. Now, a lot of voters aren't particularly thrilled about certain aspects of the economy. There's a lot of things still being worked out, and we'll get to that. But no, it's not going to be what he thinks it is. And again, trying to suggest that actually Obamacare is Republican. No, Republicans have called it Obamacare for a very particular reason. In fact, we're going to get into this right now. I was going to wait until later. Lest you think I am pulling your leg. Here's Nancy Pelosi back in the day on good old VCR taped C-SPAN talking about how amazing Obamacare was going to be for healthcare. Prices were going to plummet. There were going to be doctors shooting out of your jeans. It was going to be incredible.
Could I just ask, in the current environment in a swing district, is Obamacare a winner or a loser politically?
Well, you have to ask a member, but I believe that it's a winner. And by the way, it's called the Affordable Care Act. It's called the Affordable Care Act.
Yes,
I know
ma'am.
you didn't intend any compliment or derogatory, but it's called the Affordable Care Act. And the Affordable Care Act, when people know what it is and see what it means to them. And that's a case we have to make. We're grown-ups. When Franklin Roosevelt put out, when they moved forward with Social Security, he said, I'm so convinced about this, now make me do it. Everybody has to spread the word as to what this is. As the president said yesterday, change is hard. It always is.
It's a winner.
I love this. It's fantastic because now you have Democrat senators like those who voted for it on the floor of the Senate saying it sucks. It has always sucked. It will continue to suck money out of the American healthcare system. It will continue to suck money out of any wallet it is attached to.
I owe you an answer on why it is I'm standing here today asking to extend something that was temporary. And here's the reason. We did fail to bring down the cost of health care.
Now, there is an architect of the Affordable Care Act that we're going to go to later. This guy actually.
You just literally cannot do it.
Who actually says quite clearly that it was always going to be a dismal failure, but we don't really need that right now because, look, you and I, we understand this. Government programs are big, massive, freaking failures. And just throwing more money at it and saying, well, it's Republicans' fault they won't set Benjamins on fire in a Chicago dumpster. No, it's not going to work on Congress. That's not going to work in the general beltway, and that's not going to work on the rest of American voters. And so whether or not you try to create some weird new alternative narrative that Barack Obama, traditionally conservative Republican, somehow got Mitch McConnell to ram through Obamacare. No. And by the way, lest it be forgotten that the late John McCain is responsible for it not being repealed and then a better system being put in its place. Now, that said, we're going to send y'all to commercial, that being on the radio side. We're going to continue on the live stream. Don't go anywhere. Tony Kinnett Cast. Now, I do want to point out that the most important politician in the country, he of the Golden Corral governor variety, J.B. Pritzker of Illinois, he is also weighed in on what he thinks about the government shutdown ending here pretty soon.
Haha, Wade.
Senator Durbin's vote on Sunday. Can you give us your first reaction on camera to that vote, and what should we make of the fact that the 7 Democrats and 1 independent are either not running imminently or retiring from office?
I have enormous respect and always have for Senator Durbin. I disagree with his vote. I do not think that the 8 members of the Senate that voted the way that they did should have done that. I I think that we had an opportunity to make sure that we were protecting people's health care across the nation. But for whatever reason, those members decided to vote the way that they did. I'm disappointed.
So here's the general idea. You have the Democrats who are trying to suggest simultaneously that Republicans are deeply malicious and evil, and this is all their fault, and we should have stood up to this until the bitter end, while also saying, yeah, we had to hurt Americans because it's good for them, because this program that isn't working is the only way forward. It doesn't even make sense, even in the boiled down version. So they have to do this winding, meandering Jumanji of an answer. And it's not going to make anything any better. Meanwhile, the youths, they're very upset as well. The youths are, in fact, perhaps more upset than anybody, period. And by the youths, I mean I guess, federal workers that bust into Tim Kaine's office to yell. By the way, for those of you who ever think that the thing to do, I'm going to march down there and I'm going to open the office door and I'm going to say, listen here, I'm paying you. You need to listen to me. Yeah, it doesn't work like that. And every time Democrats kick down the door to say, I'm here and you need to listen to me, they realize that there's more people in that office than just the representative or the senator of the United States Congress. Here's, by the way, what that looked like today.
My way into Kaine's. Hi. I spent about a couple hours trying to call this morning and y'all didn't pick up. So then
she's already going into hysterics. Like, I called like hours this morning. You know, they might be a little busy given current things going on. So starting off with a good strong Karening.
I drove an hour and a half to be here. So now I'd like to meet with my senator, please. So I'll wait whenever he's ready.
So she just plops down and says, I'll wait. Boy, I'll say. So they say he's not going to have time.
He is a traitor.
Oh.
He should find.
So instead of just saying, look, you know, he doesn't have time today. He's got like a busy schedule, a lot of things going on in the Senate. She's like, well, he should find time to talk to me. I have over 36 coins on Farmville, and every one of them says I need to be here right now.
This backpack is full of Twinkies. I can last all day.
I starved in the Students for Palestine protest. I can outlast your company salad lunch.
No, I'll wait. It's okay.
So eventually she does get into the office and he's like, there are a lot of federal workers who just had to go back to work. And she's like, ow. And then turns around and leaves. Oh, it just looks so bad. It does. And it's not getting any better. It's not getting any better anywhere. Now, this brings us to the candidacy side of things, because Kamala Harris may have the best 3D chess of all time. Maybe Letitia James. We'll let Letitia James come in first here. Letitia James has some great 3D chess today.
Hello, it's Letitia James, the Attorney General of the great state of New York. My office has been in court fighting to preserve SNAP benefits, otherwise known as food stamps.
I thought we weren't supposed to call them food stamps. Wait a minute. Rules for semantics. They get to say whatever they want. If you say, well, you know, SNAP or food stamps, they're like, how dare you criticize the unhoused and the unfooded? We got to bring the radio crew back from commercial because my timer's almost up there. Don't go anywhere. We got a lot more to talk about. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast.
It's the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
3D Chessland. We're here. It's great. All of the momentum, like the small amounts of momentum, this has literally been the theme of the Democrat Party the entire second Trump administration. They'll gain like a little bit of momentum, and I mean a very small amount that's either caused by the Trump administration stalling for a couple of seconds and maybe fighting something out with the courts, or perhaps maybe a little legislative squabble on whether something's going to be passed through to the Senate or not. And the Democrats have a little bit of momentum. And then every time they take it, they wad it up and they chuck it in the nearest garbage can. Every single time. We saw this with the MS-13 Kilmar Obrador Garcia. We saw this with defending the rioters throwing rocks at police officers' heads. We saw this with the Charlie Kirk situation. We saw that time and time and time and time again. the Stephen Colbert late night show stuff, every time they have a smidgen, a fraction of momentum, they chuck it right down the drain. And now here we are yet again, Letitia James coming out when no one asked her to, telling people if you're on food stamps or SNAP and the shopkeep scans your card and it comes back denied because there's no money on the EBT card, then tell them, I'm not joking, then tell them you have money anyway and they just can't see it like you can, Bruce Willis. Here you go.
Hello, it's Letitia James, the Attorney General of the great state of New York. My office has been in court fighting to preserve SNAP benefits, otherwise known as food stamps. We have been winning in court, but the federal government...
They have not been winning in court, by the way. Again, I will remind you, hours after the statement came out, the Supreme Court was like, nope.
...is dead set on trying to take away your benefits. So here's what you need to know.
Okay.
If you have benefits on your cards, you can use them.
Okay, if I have benefits on my EBT card, I can use them. All right, good. All right, next.
If you are denied at a store that accepts EBT, you should tell them, I have a balance on my EBT card and I am able to use it.
Now, hang on. No. If I have the benefits on my EBT card and I'm like, all right, hey, here is my EBT card. And then they scan it and it goes, boop, declined. And then they say, hey, you don't have anything. Well, then that means I don't have any benefits on my EBT card, right? If it scans and then there's $0, producer Nick, help me out here. Where's my math just falling apart here?
I don't know. I'm so confused.
Okay, we'll let her continue. So
Can she show me where my benefits are?
So if you have an EBT card, right, that's step one, right?
Yeah.
You have the EBT card. It has the benefits on it. It's loaded. It's jam-packed with 13 essential SNAP benefits. I take that to the store.
Free carrots.
Yeah, free carrots. I buy a bag of carrots and I say, hi, I have an EBT card. Give me my carrots. And then they scan it and says, hey, this is reading a balance of $0. You are supposed to tell them.
Letitia James says,
I do have money.
No.
Letitia James said that I need cash now. And then you just break into the J.G. Wentworth song and it all goes away.
You should tell them, I have a balance on my EBT card and I am able to use it.
Now, do you know why that's absolute bullcrap? Because if you had a balance on your EBT card, you would be able to use it.
If they still refuse your card, file a complaint with my office at the link in my bio.
That's not going to do anything.
Snitch on your bodega owner.
Complain about it. It's like, hey, this guy won't take free as my offer of payment. And so what do? You complain. Now, you can't eat the complaint. That isn't going to help you. But later on, I can go, I received 10,000 complaints and use it in my re-election campaign if I'm not in prison for fraud.
And I promise you this. I'm fighting the federal government every single day on this issue until they back off.
They're not backing off, though. It's not a back off issue. There's no money in the bucket to give you. I'm so sorry. There's only a limited contingency fund. You blew through it. You burnt through it.
Wait until she learns how cash works. She'll be so
she knows how
shocked.
cash works. Check her mortgage documents. She knows very well how money works when it comes to separate tax filings for, it's an investment property in Virginia. I'm a Virginia resident, said the Attorney General of New York State.
Feed the people. Stop the cruelty.
Let them eat cake. Ah, yes. Thank you, Letitia. Excellent. Top notch as always. Really, really enjoy it. I'm amazed. All right, this brings us to Kamala Harris, the former vice president. She's also got some 3D chess. This is actually the 3D chess of the episode. Kamala Harris now is claiming on various podcasts that she had Donald Trump's campaign strategy beat all along. See, she actually outmaneuvered Donald Trump in the campaign. Yeah, that's why she beat him so handily. Here you go.
I was aware of my opponent's strategies, and I wasn't about to fall prey or fall into those traps.
I like, just off the side, so she's so smart. She's not going to fall prey to all of these traps. You know, like saying something stupid that gets clipped over and over and over and over and over again, which was 90% of the footage of Kamala Harris. No. She wasn't going to fall into that trap. Here on the non-denominational church foyer coffee shop set of the podcast, Kamala Harris, she's got it dialed in, man. 3D chess, ahoy.
And part of his strategy and those around him was to try and take me off our game and message. And
remember the message, Brat, Summer, and Joy? Remember neon green? That was the message, was just joy and coconuts. Man, it's a good thing Trump didn't get her off of the messaging she had dialed in on coconuts.
I wasn't about to be distracted by those flames that he was trying to throw to get me away from my highest priority, which was talking to people about the economy.
She couldn't even do it. Again, her line was that the economy was great because it was Joe Biden's economy that she was a part of. So as far as the distractions argument, who went on the Call Her Daddy podcast and talked about menstrual cramps weeks before the election? Did Donald Trump go, "Hey, Kamala, it's Doug Emhoff, your husband, sort of, and I think you should talk about your period on a podcast full of sad millennial women. I wish I loved you. Goodbye." Like, Trump didn't do that. First of all, that would make an incredible Hollywood movie or even a Hallmark movie. I'd settle for that. That'd be great. You'd watch that. Donald Trump pretending to be Kamala Harris' husband to get her to lose the election.
And then they really fall in love. The Hallmark twist.
This summer. It'd be incredible. I'd watch that.
And their well-being in terms of their financial well-being. And so I understood the game that was being played. And I made a decision that I wasn't going to get played. And
chess, not checkers. Got it.
Chess, not checkers. Got it. She lost more embarrassingly than anybody since Reagan took him to the woodshed. Oof. I don't.
What is with that Big Brother cutaway camera angle? Like she has a separate interview going on.
Liberal
just by herself.
podcasts are just awful and embarrassing. Oh, you need like a case in point on that? Oh, I've got you. Harry Sisson, because again, the left doesn't know how to do media. They think this right now. They think Kamala Harris going on podcasts, like that's the move. That's going to get everybody in before 26. And we're finally going to get messaging, guys. We're going to do it. And so they bring on Harry Sisson, who is just like this wimpy beta on social media, who may have 1/2 a thimble's worth of testosterone. On with Jennifer Welch, the lady who is obsessed with fantasizing about JD Vance being a drag queen. Really weird.
And the murder of her enemies.
Yeah, very, very gross woman. Yeah, the lady that said, you got to get on board with wanting Republicans dead or we're coming after you. Yeah, that lady. Well, she and Harry Sisson did a little show together, a little exciting time.
Ladies powwow.
Yeah, a little 2.5 Men special here. And I want to make sure that we have this particular one lined up to go. It just goes sideways so fast. This obsession with JD Vance these people have is pathetic.
Had it or hit it, JD Vance's Halloween costume.
Oh God, had it. I think it was Tommy Vitor who you were talking to, and he said, "I'm so sick of losing to fucking losers." Mm-hmm. JD Vance is such a fucking loser.
Okay. Let's just pretend for a second that claim is accurate. Let's pretend for a second that Vance actually is the loser to which he's claiming he is. What does it say about you? Biden trotted you out like a weird, maybe bring in, why don't you take a seat over there, Chris Hansen ventriloquist puppet. All right. You were one of the lead DNC influencers and you lost. What does that say? We, over here on the Tony Kinnett Cast, not like the world's biggest and most exciting podcast or broadcast, we are skunking Jennifer Welch's ratings. What does that say if you're losing to us? What does that say about you? If they're the losers, what does that make you?
Even your memes are garbage tier.
Oh, well, that's another topic for another time.
He's such a loser. He's one of those insecure men I just described earlier. And I think, Jennifer, you described him as a failed drag queen. It's what he always wanted. And then he had to write the book and, pretend to be that. And then now he's vice president. It's what he always wanted. He is such a loser. He's an insecure man. He doesn't have a job. All he does at the White House is troll. He went after me on Twitter.
By the way, the vice president famously doesn't have a job. That has been true since the very first vice president. Kamala Harris playing solitaire all day. I've joked about that. What are you supposed to do? I mean, you're the vice president. You have no job. Your job is being alive. That's your job.
Unless you're elected border czar, and then you avoid the border.
Well, that's true. That's a very good point. Oh man, we were way over time on the radio side. Radio crew, we got to send you over to the commercial. Just be glad you guys don't have to see a picture of Harry Sisson thinking about JD Vance. It's the Tony Kinnett cast.
There's a reason it's only a face camera.
Ugh.
You cannot be an elected official at that high and going after 23-year-olds on social. No. That cannot be the way. And so I hate JD Vance. And so I've certainly had it with his dumbass costume, his dumbass face, and everything he does.
I would love to remind each and every one of you, every single one of you out there, that we moved into the era of presidents interacting with celebrities and media personalities in the Obama administration. Most famously, it was in the roast where the White House correspondence with Barack Obama that he roasted Donald Trump and said he would never, ever, ever be president. So, yeah, I'm sorry, that glass ceiling has been shattered. Presidents interacting with average, everyday Americans and giving them crap. Yeah, that's, well, in Harry Sisson's case, quite literally with Trump's AI meme of dropping poop on New York. Just saying. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just not seeing the pearl clutching that's necessary here. All right, moving aside from that, I did want to talk, last but certainly not least, about one of the greatest runs for power we may ever see in our entire lives. Oh yeah, I'm talking about none other than Jasmine Crockett running for Senate in Texas. Let's go!
So I got to ask you, because your name has been floated all over Washington, D.C., and I'm sure all over Texas as a potential U.S. Senate candidate. What can you tell us?
Yeah, I am considering it, is what I can tell you. I think that we're living in unprecedented times, and I think an unprecedented candidacy.
Oh, unprecedented candidacy. Remember that.
Is what we need to do in Texas if we're going to do something different. And so I think when you're talking about how expensive these races are, starting with someone who is known and has a brand that doesn't take
Remember that. She thinks that this is unique, running in Texas for Senate. Hang on to that one. And yes, I know that she looks like she's tweeting or doing this interview from an Olive Garden, but hang on.
From anybody, I think being a fighter for the people is what people are looking for. I think one of the reasons you saw what happened in New York is because he said he was going to fight for the people that are forgotten, not the rich people, but the people that are barely making it by in one of the most expensive cities in this country. He said he was going to fight for them. And even though there were naysayers who said he can't do this, he can't do that, guess what? There are people that are believing that he is going to try to do everything that he said he wanted to do on behalf of them. So we'll see, but we don't want to just do something just to be doing it.
Okay. I love that she's making the claim that what you really need is a candidate with personality that thinks outside of the box and just like big grassroots campaign in Texas. I will remind you, Ted Cruz beat the crap out of Colin Allred of the Tennessee Titans in 2024 by almost 1 million votes. John Cornyn beat Mary Jennings Hager in 2020. She was previously a candidate for the Texas 31st Congressional District in the House and lost her election prior in 2018. So they're running failed candidates again. Ted Cruz in 2018 beat Beto O'Rourke by over 200,000 votes. Incredible stuff. Incredible stuff. So yeah, Jasmine Crockett doing the same thing again. Love it. We got to bring the Raider crew back. Don't go anywhere. It's the Tony Kinnett cast.
You're listening to the Tony Kinnett cast on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett cast here on The Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first on 93 WIBC. It's a privilege this Veterans Day to be joined by the one and always Marine Zach Stinson. Good to have you, by the way.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
If we can actually get the interview actually to run and work, fingers crossed through the whole thing here. You've got an incredible story. Obviously, a lot of incredible stories have come out of the sandbox, but coming home and dealing with life after a major rehabilitation process, after the IED, and then serving other service members is a really, really incredible story. Tell us a little bit about it if you could.
It's just been a wild ride. And I tell everybody the easiest way through, out is just to continue through. So we've just been pushing through constantly, kind of whenever things don't even make sense, honestly. But I think I gained a lot of that from the Marine Corps, adapt and overcome, and just figuring how to keep pushing and getting better. I've been very fortunate to have a good support system. And since injury, they've been with me. My family, my wife and me are going to be celebrating 16 years at the end of this month. And
congratulations.
Thank you. So she's been there since day one. I got 2 wonderful girls. And, it's just try to get through each day and then go into the next.
What's it like to wake up 6 days after just that really horrible moment with the IED? And I just want to make sure this is clear here. I know you were medevaced off the scene. Did you go through the 25 surgeries all in 6 days, or how many surgeries in those 6 days did you go through before you even woke up for the first time?
Well, so I'll go back to the original, the day. So November 9th, 2010 is whenever I got blown up. My squad was tasked with doing QRF. I was the squad leader. And so we had dropped some heavy ordnance. We had to go do a battle damage assessment on that ordnance. And so we walk across this field. There's a wall that runs north and south of the village. I take point from that position and jump the wall, and 10, 15 yards on the other side, I step down with my left leg and boom, I'm in the air. Couldn't move. My guys actually thought I was dead. Fortunately, they got to me quick enough that there wasn't really any issues or anything, and started rendering aid. We started getting shot at, so they pushed me on the other side of the wall, and eventually, 45 minutes, we got me on the bird and put me in induced coma. And so that was in Bagram. I woke up in Bethesda 6 days later. And the 25 surgeries, I say that as like a bench safety mark kind of thing. I have no idea how many surgeries. It's actually 25 is probably more on the low end. I would assume I've probably had 35 plus through the course of the thing. But at one point I was going in getting 3 surgeries a week. Monday, Wednesday, Fridays were washouts, just cleaning everything out. The dirt over in Afghanistan is really how we actually had a lot of guys lose limbs or even pass away.
That dust it gets you, man. It gets in every single crevice, and just infection rides on every single grain. And you're right. I actually knew a guy who was lost to infection just entirely. Well, that's another story for another time. But what I wanted to focus on here, and what the really incredible story that I wanted to spend a little bit of time with, we've worked with several groups before, bringing on the show and talking about support groups, support funds. Tell us a little bit about Semperfi and America's Fund, or the fund as you call it.
So the fund is an organization that supports wounded, ill, and injured through whatever branch, and really just gives support, whether it be adaptive equipment, whether it be a vehicle grant, golf, neurotherapy, and many more that I'm drawing a blank exactly on what all it covers. But
emotional, physical, medical, auxiliary supports that you maybe wouldn't even think of. That's why you have those guys to think of the things that men might need coming back from those injuries.
Exactly. And a lot of the staff are prior service or spouses of service members. And so they get it. I mean, it was started by nurses, but Marines' husbands to help vets in Pendleton. So, I can't say enough good things about them. And truly, like, whenever I go back to having that good support system, having my wife and my kids and everything, the fund is right there with them. Like, I don't know exactly what number it was, like the third or the fourth person that came in and approached my wife after I had gotten to Bethesda, but I'd imagine it was probably close to the top 10. Like, hey, we're with Semperfi America's Fund. Here's my card. Whatever you need, like, we're going to help you walk through this process. And obviously, it was a very overwhelming for my wife initially, and then you kind of fall into the groove. Like, what I say a lot is there's no how-to guide to getting blown up, right? Like, I didn't get blown up and my wife got a packet like, this is your life now. So we've learned a lot of things as we've gone through this process, and the fund has literally been there every step of the way. It started out as small as making sure, like, when I got blown up, my wife was 4 months pregnant with our daughter. So it made sure that my wife had a place to stay, like, working on that she was comfortable. I shouldn't say that the government did make sure she had a place to stay, but that she was comfortable. The big thing that sticks out in our mind, honestly, when we tell this story, is that they gave us winter coats, because I got blown up in November. We live down in North Carolina. We're from Pennsylvania. We understand it gets cold, but we just didn't, like, we had a house down in North Carolina. It wasn't necessarily one of our first priorities to make sure that she packed all of her winter clothes coming up from North Carolina. And so that was just something that the fund was there and just made sure that they did. And then throughout this whole process, I used to just joke and say that my original case manager, her name was Dawn. And I used to say that Dawn was a ghost, wasn't even real, because everybody in my family, like, through this whole 2 months I'm at Bethesda initially, would just talk about this lady, Dawn. I had never met her. And in actuality, I was so medicated that what was happening was I would meet her or like talk to her, and then I would fall asleep, and then it wouldn't come back to me. We like to joke that I had Christmas that year like 5 different times, because by the time and literally my wife would play along with it. I think by the 3rd, 4th time or whatever, because I'd wake up and be like, is it Christmas? And she's like, yes, look what I got you. And I was like, it's my favorite thing ever. But it was literally like any child's dream, because I got to live it literally 5 or 6 times that day. It was great.
You know, I think that it just to take a small sidestep here, as an American, there is an incredible amount of pride that I feel at the number of veterans assistance organizations that have gotten their hands dirty in the nitty and the gritty of what it means to provide not just a couple of resources, not just to go tell your wife, hey, we're here for you if you need anything, whatever ambiguous thing that might be. But whether it's Veteran Action, whether it's Semperfi America's Fund, whether it's any of these particular groups that have taken the time to reach out to veterans and their families, especially those who have been in serious injuries, and step alongside them with something that could be what someone might consider small. Someone might actually consider, well, a winter coat, big deal, who cares? The little things like that aren't so little when it's in the middle of that. I mean, I wouldn't say crisis, but it's a marathon of continual pain and readjustment. And I think it's something that it's something that I can't really get enough of. You know how, like, around the 4th of July, you can't get enough of, like, the NASCAR and the NFL montages with, like, battleships from the Navy and, like, the air assault team, because, the air assault team's really good for video promos. But that all said, it is something that gives you pride that's long lasting as an American, to know that there are guys and gals that are devoting their lives to digging into the real psychological and physical trauma and making sure that vets and their families have what they need, including community. I believe did the fund get you into sports again, which did I hear that right?
Yeah. So I do head cycling. I'm actually on the U.S. paracycling team. at least until January. But yeah, so they've been.
So you're one of the bicyclists that don't annoy me. You can count those on like one hand, man. That's impressive.
Yeah, well, I'm even worse. I ride in the middle of the road so people see me. But no, I mean that really is it as well, is therapy through sport, or really. It goes beyond that too, because another thing that I like to tell people is, so I got injured and I was probably walking around Afghanistan at 170, 165, whatever.
Sure.
I got blown up. I probably was down to 110 pounds.
Gracious.
So I don't know exactly what I weighed because I really couldn't move, but I still remember the doctor came in and was like, we just need you to eat. But the thing was, no one ever told me to stop eating. So like 3 months later, and this like months and months later, and I look in the mirror and I'm huge. I would say at my heaviest, I was probably at like 220 pounds. And whenever I had legs, it was as easy as like, okay, well, I'm overweight, so we just need to go run. But now it was trying to find out something else that I could do to get that cardio in. And so you just kind of have to find something. And I think that goes for, really anybody with an injury or even adults, really. You just got to find something that keeps you active and keeps you moving. And fortunately, I found mine in hand cycling. I happen to be halfway decent at it. And they've been instrumental in a lot of my sports equipment stuff, and I would not be able to compete at half the competitions had it not been for them.
Man, I tell you what, a Sarnt that can't stay away from sports. I tell you what, man, I love it. I do. I got to say, by the way, just as a small aside, I know the Marine Corps has no problem with this at all because it's the kind of guys the Marines make into great NCOs. But when you were telling me the story of how you struck the IED, that you said I was squad leader and so I took point. Dude, I'm telling you, after I was over in the Middle East a couple of weeks ago over in Israel, and I had the displeasure of observing some UN troops in action. Oh, dude, it was just rough. It hurt every part of my body and soul. And so just even that small story reminding me that, yes, we do, in fact, have NCOs that not only while they're in service, they're taking point. Now you're taking point with Tessa, again, with Semper Fi and the fund. Dude, I just love it. I don't care if the interview's over time. I never get to hear good stories like these. It's always someone coming on and they're all bummed and it's some congressional political something and it's exhausting. This is awesome, man. I'm thrilled.
Nah, man. It's life's too short, man. There's joy in everything. Honestly, I went through that as well. There's plenty of times whenever it was just like, woe is me. But there was a time also, I still remember it, and I believe I was in the Malone house in DC, but I was like, the world is going to just keep spinning. Like, I can move with it, or I can stay back and just feel sorry for myself and get all upset, but it really doesn't care. So my attitude is either going to attract people to me, or it's going to push them away. And 15 years later, I might be pushing more people away at this point, but I have a work ethic behind it.
I'm sorry, Sarnt. I hate to push back on you like this, but I will. But no, it's crucial that we have guys like you who've been in the bottom of that valley where you thought the world's just going to keep spinning and it sucks and I don't know my way out of it. You guys have to be leading the charge in a way that I never could. What I can do on this is I can point people to you, and those who are tuning into the Tony Kinnett cast, either podcast, streaming, or whatever we're on, they have access to you, and God willing, if there's someone in their life that is in the middle of this crisis, whether it's a physical or a psychological injury, whether it's getting home, and we talked about this with the Veterans Action guys who are working on getting guys reattached to a community to lean on and to be needed from, instead of just being this weird floating cell out by their lonesome. That, to know what is going on inside the guy's head, like you truly do, that's not just crucial. If anyone else other than a guy like you takes the program, I'm walking away. I'm not pointing the magnifying glass at it because it's not going to be as effective.
Yeah, there's truth to that for sure, and that's that goes back to what I would say with the fund in any adaptive sports programs. Like I do marathons, I do these competitions with other vets, and whether they're just starting out or they've been doing it for a couple of years, it's really hard. Being in the military, you're next to your brothers and sisters every day for amount of years, and then one day you retire, you go home, and then that's all just gone. You know what I mean? So it was a little bit of a shell shock, especially being at the hospital for 2 years and having guys with injuries. And then I came back, and guess what? No one has injuries. And I still have these organizations and Marine Corps League and other things like that. But not everybody is going through the same things I am. And honestly, a big thing that I ran into initially was not everybody was my age. You had a lot of these Vietnam, even more so back then, but World War II veterans. And it was hard to find people that I could relate to. So through the years and being with the fund at like Marine Corps Marathon, I'm back together with all my brothers, and we're all looking at this common goal, 26 miles that's put in front of us. And we all have this same ambition of, we're going to cross the finish line, and we're going to freaking walk, crawl, or fly, whatever way we can get across it. So it's just a great thing. It really is.
Again, not just limited to the OEF vets, but I tell you what, the kids are going to be all right with the OEF NCOs, man. I love it. I really do. Well, that said, Sergeant Zach Stinson, I'm sorry to keep you, again, like double what I normally do for an interview. Thefund.org. That is THEFUND.org. Go donate. If you're listening to the show, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hop off this interview before producer Nick even gets to edit it. I'm going to go donate because this is crucial. If we can send our vets somewhere, we should be willing and, may I say, excited about making sure their families are whole and those vets are put together when they come back home. Sergeant, thanks for joining us.
Can I also just point out real quick?
Yes, you can.
Semper Fi and America's Fund is getting the matches on with the Bob and Renee Parsons Foundation and PXG. So until the end of the year, Bob and Renee Parsons Foundation and PXG will match $7.5 million given to the fund. So,
dude, that's incredible. Now, they legally don't let me near golf courses. They just don't. I'm a menace, and I don't mean it in a good way. So I doubt that I would ever, but dude, I tell you what, we'll support it either way. And that's excellent. We'll keep up. We'll have to have you back on when they do that. I don't know. I tell you what, I have to come out and interview you when you're getting into the hand cycling, man. I'm telling you, that's good stuff.
All about it, man. I really appreciate you having me. It's been a good time.
All right, real quick here, before we get to the end, I promised you a couple of things here in Bonus Tonus. This is a Bonus Tonus that will be worth your time. So, first and foremost, an update on the situation from the arrest made, the violent assault. The guy who beat up the TPUSA member, bloodied his face, that the cops were wrestling to the ground. No, they were wrestling the TPUSA member to the ground. The guy who attacked him is a Muslim far-left extremist, according to Andy No. His name, he has been identified as Jihad Drupalez. Yes, another Muslim extremist with the name Jihad. I too am just perpetually shocked.
Who's apparently employed by California Public Health.
Employed by California Public Health, because what says public health like beating the crap out of people for expressing their First Amendment rights? Yes.
Did you see that he's also a rapper?
He's a rapper as well? Well,
they are the believer.
Well, he's clearly ready to run for mayor of LA or San Francisco.
He should do a single with Mr. Cardamom.
He really should. Now, this brings us over to some of our other news, because while the media is refusing to cover this, and I mean at all, they're struggling at an entirely different level. So I meant to show you guys this a little bit earlier. I think I teased it at the very, very beginning of the show. That would be ABC News' Rachel Scott implied today that the government shutdown was going to drag on a lot longer than need be, because Mike Johnson had the House out of session for over 50 days, and it would take them a really long time to get back to Washington. In fact, they should have been in session today. Why weren't they in session today? Here's Rachel Scott of ABC News making this case.
42 days in, and the end of the government shutdown is now finally in sight. That measure clearing the Senate now heads to the House, where lawmakers are scrambling to get back after being out of town for more than 50 days.
The bill as amended.
Now, wait a minute. Why would they need to get back into town? Why aren't they there now? Because it's Veterans Day. The House of Representatives would not have been in session today anyway. It is a federal holiday. It takes very little time just not to insinuate and imply when you are covering something that a group of people is not horrible, evil, terrible, whatever, just because you may not agree with the particular party in place. Now, that said, I do want to point out that the pundits over on the left are also in a really bad place now. So, we saw like the Democrats in Congress fighting with Chuck Schumer. Now the Democrats are fighting with the Democrats over in the media. So Jennifer Rubin is really, really mad at Nate Silver. Why? Because Nate Silver pointed out that the Democrats were nuking themselves over this government shutdown, and he thought that essentially it might be worth it for them in the long run. So Jennifer Rubin says, quote, "The 8 Neville Chamberlains," freaking yawn, "who foolishly convinced themselves that caving for a vote with a 60-vote margin, no less." Jennifer Rubin, formerly of the Washington Post, learns how the 60-vote threshold works. With a reversal of reductions in force back pay, betrayed the thousands of government workers who have held out and the SNAP beneficiaries who have faced starvation. So the Democrats betrayed people on SNAP by restoring funding to SNAP. Explain that one to me. Betrayed the thousands of government workers who have held out. The government workers have not held out. They're not being paid. Now they will be paid again. What does this have to do with them? Nate Silver responds, "Give me an effing break. I thought Democrats caving on the shutdown was dumb. Also, their whole strategy was dumb and reveals Schumer's weakness." But do you think furloughed government workers and SNAP recipients were unhappy that the shutdown ended? It's really funny to watch essentially two different sides of the political elite gnashing at each other. Ezra Klein, who we've mentioned before, has a new article out. Democrats were on a roll. Why stop now? Oh, yes, clearly they were on a super duper roll. More Democrats flaking off every day, calling their own party stupid and a failure, and the bill a disaster. Yes. Yeah, that was clearly doing wonders. They won I said this was going to happen. They're going to win the election in Virginia, and they're going to get really cocky, and they're going to think the entire country is Virginia. Because as we talked about with the former Attorney General of Virginia, Ken Cuccinelli, Nova is just this one big blob of suburbs. It's just suburbs. And if the Democrats believe that the entire country's demographics are just middle-aged white women and then young 20-somethings women, then they think they can sweep the electorate. And that's just not the case. By the way, I do want to point out, Ezra Klein says in his new article, quote, "More than anything else, this is what led some Democrats to cut a deal. Trump's willingness to hurt people exceeds their willingness to see people get hurt."
Oh, brother, this guy stinks! I didn't like any of that.
I'm just going to level with you. That's one of the most stupid things Ezra's ever written.
Fun fact, I tried to use a EBT card Letitia James gave me to buy 3 carrots.
You did?
And Trump came up and stole it from me.
He stole it from me.
He said, "I'm doing this to hurt you."
And then I'm glad you held on to your Subway sandwich, because then the 3 guys yelled, "This is MAGA country."
Yep.
Yeah, and then tied a NASCAR garage pole into a noose. Yep. I was there. Yep, a young man saw me. That young man's name, Albert Einstein. It's a true story. Yeah, please don't look it up. She's from Canada. You wouldn't know her. So the Democrats are struggling very, very hard. Now, there is an opportunity here for the Trump administration to essentially muscle through a catch-22 of victory. This is really a rare thing for a president to get. Usually a catch-22 is a bad thing. After the 22nd mission, either you, in a catch-22, as the novel goes, and as the old saying, the old idea goes, after your 22nd mission as a pilot, you either don't fly and therefore don't have any more missions, or you're very likely to die in combat. So negative, rock, hard place, kind of a thing. Trump is kind of in the opposite position right now. Very strange. If Trump tariffs stay in place and the Supreme Court rules they're good, then he wins a sizable national security victory and essentially gets to continue reshaping things how he wants, especially in the Pacific and off the coast of South America. Scott Bessent made this case quite well on an earlier interview today. Again, the best arguer, period, when it comes to the Trump economy and what his maneuvers could mean, because again, Trump floats a lot of stuff out there and sees how it sits on the water, is Scott Bessent. Check this out from today.
So, Mr. Secretary, amid this discussion of costs and prices and affordability, how does a $20 billion bailout of Argentina help Americans? You're the president's point person on that. Can you explain to those here who are feeling the pinch, including America's farmers, why the United States is helping out Argentina?
Well, do you know what a swap line is?
It's currency swap, yes.
Yes, but what is that?
You're the Treasury Secretary.
Yes, but why would you call it a bailout?
That is how...
In most bailouts...
By the way, that is exactly how you handle it. Pierre Poilievre, during his campaign for the Conservatives in Canada, he did the same thing. They're like, are you aware that you might actually... This is a BBC reporter, of course. Are you aware you might actually be considered Donald Trump and Hitler? And he's chewing on an apple. And he's like, who said I was like Donald Trump? Did you? Who's saying that? They're like, well, some people are saying... Who are these people? And that's how you play an interview. When they make the assertion that it's bailouts and not a currency swap, Scott Bessent forces MSNBC to define terms. Here, we'll play that clip forward here.
Yes, but what is that?
You're the Treasury Secretary.
Yes, but why would you call it a bailout?
That is how...
In most bailouts, you don't make money. The U.S. government made money. We used our financial balance sheet to stabilize the government. One of our great allies in Latin America, during an election, the president there won in a landslide. The government's going to make money, and I would rather use peace through economic strength than have to be shooting at narco boats coming offshore if the government collapsed.
He's correct. And by the way, the point that he's making there is, let's say right now, and producer Nick, just...
Oh, pull it up, Jamie.
What is the value 6 months ago between the Argentine peso and the US dollar compared to where it is like today? I want to see like how the peso has climbed or fallen. The argument that was made in favor of the currency swap is that the United States would continue to be an economic trading partner for Argentina and would continue trading with the country. And then as the peso increases in value, that the one-for-one currency swap with Argentina then makes money back to the United States, investing in a stock market on a national level kind of thing. Now, is it a risky little game? Yes. Wait a minute. That's the no buzzer, and yes, it is risky and not risky at the same time. Here's why it's risky. It's risky because no one can actually predict the future, and the Argentine economy struggles a bit here and there every once in a while. No other country is secure in economic trajectory. In the meantime, it's not terribly risky because as long as the United States leverages China out of the Argentine economy, the peso should increase in value. So it is both risky and not risky. Bessent explained that a little better than I did. Producer Nick?
So on May 11th of this year, the peso was worth 0.00089 of a US dollar and is now worth 0.00071 of a US dollar at that exchange rate.
Gotcha. So right now what you're seeing, so it's fallen or is it climbing again? I'm looking at the actual currency chart and the value sector here, and it appears to have dipped kind of into September and at a 5-year and then appears to be tracking back up. I'm willing to see where he carries it through. It's a risky game, but Bessent usually has a pretty good hedge on these things.
Well,
no
also
pun intended.
it's a bit more complicated timeline-wise, as the transaction of the deals are pretty undercover. It's not really well expressed, and so what we do know is based on the reportings of Scott Bessent and those who are privy to it, we have made money as a country from this transaction.
Now, here's where the president might throw a little bit of a wrench in his own gear shift here. Trump sat down to an interview with Laura Ingraham, and he began talking about his best argument for tariffs. His best arguments for tariffs are two things. Number one, I did it a little bit in the first administration. And number two, it is for national security purposes. Here was Trump making that case to Laura Ingraham.
In my first term, I took in hundreds of billions of tariffs. I put tariffs on China very early.
Then when we got hit with COVID, we fought that. We did a very good job, but that was COVID. It came from a certain place in China.
Right.
You remember?
Another great gift from China.
That was another little gift we got. But look, I get along great with President Xi. I get along great with China. But the only way you're going to get along well with China is you have to deal from a position of strength. We have tremendous strength because of tariffs. We have tremendous strength because of what I've done. I've rebuilt our military, and they have a lot of missiles, but we have a lot of missiles too. And they don't want to mess around with us, I can tell you that.
A lot of MAGA.
Okay, yes, good stuff. Good stuff. Now, here's where it got a little bit rocky. Because the president, as a negotiating tactic, the president, in order to give China a little bit of leverage, allowed 600,000 Chinese students, or slots for Chinese students, to come into the United States via a student visa and study at American universities. That's a problem. It is a problem because, first of all, we are training the youth of our geopolitical foe. That would be number one. Number two, Chinese people in the United States who are Chinese nationals, not who are fully fledged immigrants, those who are nationals, are often involved in IP stealing schemes. We have caught hundreds of agents from Beijing funneling corporate, trade, scientific progress, and technology, secrets and technology, back to Beijing. That is bad. And last but not least, the number of Chinese student visas that just so happen to end up with addresses right outside of major U.S. military installations. I'm aware I'm going over tonight, and it's probably in my worst interest because I'm about to drive up to Fort Wayne, where tomorrow, Senator Jim Banks and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, as well as the Secretary of the Navy, there's a defense summit in Fort Wayne, Indiana, that I'm looking forward to asking them specifically about how the United States plans to counter Chinese spying using its own populace in a very weird kind of bastardized Stasi-esque situation in the next 10 years. Because so far, the United States has not been effective at fighting it. And Laura Ingraham points this out to the president. Now, to be fair, before we get to it, it's a rough spot for Trump because he had to give some kind of a concession somewhere to essentially not bottom out the U.S. shipping economy with China. He had to give Xi something. Well, what do you give Xi? What, like a gift card to Applebee's? 15% off a gift card to Applebee's, maybe? I don't think he's going to go for it. Winnie the Pooh doesn't really prefer American dining, but he gave him the 600,000 students. So Laura brokers him out with this. Now, the president's response, which appears to be kind of quick on his feet here, this would be the wrench in the gear shift. Here you go.
Folks are not thrilled about this idea of hundreds of thousands of foreign students in the United States. We have about 350,000 Chinese. One point during COVID, you were going to, push to, get them out, but that was pulled back. You've said as many as 600,000 Chinese students could come to the United States. Why, sir, is that a pro-MAGA position when so many American kids want to go to school and there are places not for them, and these universities are getting rich off Chinese money?
Sure.
One small problem with the premise of the question. One small problem. And by the way, Laura and I are friends. I've been on her show quite a bit. I really like Laura. I think she's got an excellent interviewing style. My only problem with the end of the question is there are so many American students who want to go to university. No, you don't have to frame it up. Just say, why is that a pro-MAGA position? Let them take it. Don't say, because there's all these slots that American students need. By the way, I'm for reserving slots for in-state students. If my taxpayer dollars are going to Purdue University, why there are any spots that are held open for Chinese students or foreign students is ridiculous. I want Purdue University. If I'm paying for it, I want Indiana students to go to Purdue or Indiana University or to Butler or wherever. That would be a Pell Grant situation. Any place there are state or federal dollars going, I hear that. I just think that's kind of like a little hat on a hat there to kind of kneecap before the response is given, like a leading question sort of a thing.
Never said about China, but we do have a lot of people coming in from China. We always have, China and other countries. We also have a massive system of colleges and universities. And if we were to cut that in half, which perhaps makes some people happy, you would have half the colleges in the United States go out of business.
So what?
Well,
I really liked that line from Laura. Trump said, well, look, if we didn't have the 600,000 Chinese students, you'd have a lot of colleges in the United States go out of business. And the response from Laura is, in fact, the response. There's been a lot of online infighting on the right that hasn't really seeped out into real people land, but there's been a lot of infighting. The entire right, when Trump at this moment said, well, you'd have a lot of colleges and universities closed, was, so what? Who cares? I don't care if Berkeley closes. Again, if there have to be, because the argument here, I think, to push back a little, and I'll let him continue, not to pull a Kanye West and Taylor Swift situation, but before I let the president finish, there are taxpayer dollars being wasted in entire colleges, like categories of university, right? Colleges of liberal arts, colleges of lesbian dance studies, schools of gay psychology, Pan-African transgender studies. They don't need to exist. They don't need my money going to them. They don't need your money going to them. Your tax dollars should not be going to a musical theater program. They shouldn't. They shouldn't. And the argument that, well, we need Chinese students to prop up lesbian dance theory at Northwestern, no.
I think that's a big deal.
Are they fans,
you would have the
fans of the United States?
Yeah, but you would have, as you know, historically, black colleges and universities would all be out of business. You would have a system of colleges and universities would
so
go
we're
down the
dependent on
tubes.
China to keep our university system going?
But I think it's good to have, I actually think it's good to have outside countries. Look, I want to be able to get along with the world.
They're not the French. They're the Chinese. They spy on us.
Okay, well, I don't know. I don't think that we should just be saying the French are okay to allow into American universities, for one. The point that Trump is making, and that he does continue to make, is that bringing people into the United States from around the world makes them friendlier with the United States. You raise up a generation of people who are more open to diplomacy with the United States. It's the kindly, moderate framing of people that, oh, we'll just turn them into kindlier people. I think that's a little dangerous, personally.
Steal our intellectual property.
What, do you think the French are better?
Yeah.
I mean, really? I don't know. I'll tell you, I'm not so sure. We've had a lot of problems with the French, where we get taxed very unfairly on our technology, where, you know, they put 25% taxes on American products. Look, assuming everyone treats us badly, because that's the way I am, but we take in trillions of dollars from students. You know, the students pay more than double when they come in from most foreign countries. I want to see our school system thrive, but at the same time, I know you and I disagree. We're never going to agree on it, but that's okay. And it's not that I want them, but I view it as a business. We have millions and millions of people. Also, I want to get along with countries if possible. You know, people are shocked. Remember, Hillary Clinton said, we'll be in a war. I stopped 8 wars.
There you go. That's the president's argument. And by the way, 2 arguments that have substance. I disagree with both of the arguments kind of at a moral level. I don't care if other countries like the United States at all. Oderant dum matuant. Let them hate me as long as they fear. That is, in fact, my opinion of the United States to the rest of the world. I could care less if China doesn't like the United States as long as they fear the United States. No. Now, that's just my personal opinion. Trump is a moderate who likes to broker deals. He is. Good. And by the way, I believe there are some times that has been the better approach. In the last 10 years, again, telling India and Pakistan, which are now engaged in kind of a multi-combatant, kind of a conflict struggle that's developing, that India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, the Taliban's up to some shenanigans in the Middle Eastern regions. India and Pakistan are having to deploy a little bit. We'll keep you up to date on that if things get crazy. Again, Defense Summit tomorrow. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Regarding the Trump administration's view, there are times that moderate dangling the carrot works far better than the stick. That is very true. On the second point, that the United States needs the money, it is true. That's the reason that Trump wants to import Chinese students. They pay double in tuition. Beijing pays their tuition for them, double. That's pretty nice. But that money's not going to the United States government. The money's going to the university system, which is also being funded by the United States government, enough that I would argue to cancel out any money the United States would be getting in visa application fees. Because the U.S. does get a little bit of money in student visas. Most of it, though, does go to the university system. You're typing very quickly. Do I have that wrong, producer Nick? Oh, collegiate economic impact for small towns. So if a lot of students move in, that creates a lot of economic drive.
I think that was the kind of point that Trump didn't get to make fully, was when he was talking about the impact across the United States of the loss of about half the universities. Universities are a major backbone in some of the smaller, more suburbanite areas of many states. And so those losses will greatly damage the local economies.
So I'll pivot that off of two things. There's a comment that pointed this out by Hit Turbine, who says, and how much do we lose through IP theft? Estimated so far, the U.S. has lost several $1 trillion in IP theft. Now, of course, those are all estimates, but also...
Can you mitigate that?
But if we're also going to make estimates about the hollowing out of college towns, I think that's a bit of buggy whip syndrome. I very much disagree with the idea that as a country, what we really need to do is prop up certain towns and prop up certain industries. Like, can you imagine if in like the late 1800s, early 1900s, the United States started artificially propping up towns that were no longer pumping out silver and gold and oil? There are Kentucky towns that were boom oil towns back when we first discovered oil. The government didn't come in and save Kentucky. I don't necessarily think that it should. The idea that the government needs to import Chinese students to keep certain collegiate towns adrift, I'm just taking the theory if you're not saying that's why he's doing it. No, I don't think that's useful. And the idea that, well, sure, I mean, it would be a lot nicer to have, 27 college bars open in a town instead of 5 antique stores on the main drag. Whenever you start playing favorites in the economy and the subsidy game, people lose out pretty big. And I think there's a bigger difference between the soybean subsidizing with farmers and international securities with like mineral deals with China, and the other side of that being, well, we're importing students because not enough Americans are going to American universities. First of all, I say good. I say other than about 5 or 6 majors, most universities could go. The sciences, law, and medical being a part of the sciences. And then beyond that, just for a matter of taste, a huge deregulation and increase on the trades of the United States is exactly what it is that we need, and into the kind of robotics and AI fields as well. Probably the best way to pose that. So the last, we don't need them bringing invasive species into Michigan, says Indy Andy 4C. First of all, please never ask me, a former middle school science teacher, and did you ever know, I got an award my last year it was my first year at Knightstown. I was the Oshkosh, Wisconsin Zoological Society Teacher of the Year. Like for ecological, zoological stuff. I care a lot about invasive species. The kudzu vine and the Japanese beetle epidemic, horrible things to talk about another time, not of interest to those tuning in, I'm sure, to the Tony Kinnett cast. If you do want to, hop in and check some of those conversations out, head down to the Discord, which is a link in the description. Join us over there. I really appreciate a lot of y'all who have given kind of super chats this evening. There was one super chat I wanted to address before we hopped off for the night. From Doug Ermer, he sent $10 and he said, for the vets. Now, normally YouTube takes a percentage of donations sent into us. We will make sure that a $10 donation is made to the fund from the interview earlier, just for transparency's sake. We're not very good at redirecting donations, but this one time we absolutely will do that. If you would consider donating, there's also a link for the fund, Semper Fi and America's Fund, in the description. And I would recommend, please don't throw any super chats or any donations at us tonight or any more so. If you're going to make a donation, that is absolutely who should get some of the dinero this evening. So those things said, appreciate all of y'all. Think you're fantastic. I'm not sure what interviews we'll have from tomorrow. I might be able to sit down and chat with the Secretary of the Navy, in which case I plan to ask him about ships, and more ships. Also China's coastal policy and how we plan to give them the middle finger. The middle finger. That said, this is the Tony Kinnett cast. I'm Tony Kinnett. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.